Hey, it's great to have you with us on Sports Hub STL. Brooke, Randy, Matthew is here. How did everything go on Friday? I was not here or Thursday. How did my buddy Brendan Schaefer hang in?
Oh, he did great. But of course, we miss you, Randy. It is called the Randy Karraker Show after all. So it's a little hard when Randy Karraker isn't here. It's not your show. There we are. Yeah. And now you can see our faces. It's a little bit hard when you're not here. So we had to change it to the Brooke Grimsley, Brendan Schaefer Show. But then I started elevating him to the Brendan Schaefer Show featuring Brooke and, those other people. That's pretty much how it is. But we miss you. Yeah. And you were enjoying yourself with some golf.
Played a little golf. It was a good weekend. I missed out on the big storm here in St. Louis. Hope you are safe and have power and cable and everything. We've got John Denton from MLB.com coming up. The Cardinals 10 days away, Brooke, from opening day at the ballpark against the Minnesota Twins. Sonny Gray against Pablo Lopez. And we will start today my ranking of each and every opening day starter in Major League Baseball this season.
Oh, Randy. Anytime that Randy mentioned Sonny Gray, I get flashbacks. It's like war flashbacks to the radio days. Yes, we were on a radio show, if you didn't know. I'm waiting for Waterboy to chime in and say, you were on a radio show? Yes, we were on a radio show. We like to joke about that. But it brings me back to when Sonny Gray was brought over to the St. Louis Cardinals. Of course, it was exciting, but I think that you had some realistic expectations, and some people kind of took it the wrong way. So anytime we mention you as Sonny Gray, there's even John Mosaic. Are you allowed to tell that story, by the way?
Yeah, we can tell it.
You should tell that story. I think just to kind of explain. Okay. So we'll go back in time. Remember when Sonny Gray was signed with the Cardinals, everybody's excited, and there's a difference between an ace and a team's number one starter. And I think that's what people were missing in this story.
Well, yeah. And so you had to have context. And I get that we live in a microwave society and that people just want to see what they see and then move on to the next tweet. And I said on the air that if the Cardinals were going to sign Sonny Gray and have what was then a record payroll for the franchise, I said, so if you're going to have a record payroll and finish 500, it's a waste of money. And Matthew Rocchio was doing our social media at the time. And Matthew, do you remember exactly what it was? It was something along the lines of Karraker signing Gray is a waste of money or something to that effect, right?
Yeah, Randy Karraker reacts to Cardinals signing new pitcher, quote unquote, it's a waste of money.
So there you go. So
because I got character limits to work with. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So no
fantastic tweet.
And so
you can't write an essay in a tweet.
So
damn right.
But so over at the Cardinals, somebody now Mo, to his defense, says he doesn't watch social media. So somebody clearly told him.
Hold on a second. Mo has a burner and watches social media.
You think he says he doesn't read? He doesn't know what's going on.
Okay, sure.
But sure, somebody told him.
Okay.
So somebody told him that Randy said signing Sonny Gray was a waste of money. And so we were at the radio station, and the midday show asked if they could get Sonny Gray on. And they said, well, we appreciate the request, but we've been told to not put any people from the organization on your show because of what Randy said. And so then I get a call or a text and said, hey, sorry, I want to be straight with you about what's going on. And I said, and they said, Mo said this. And I said, well, did Mo listen to the clip? And they said, I don't know.
No. Mo would never make the same mistake that trolls and troglodytes all over Twitter make. No.
So anyway, we went.
Man wears a sweater on his shoulders.
Without having anybody from the Cardinals on the show, they didn't know. So,
that still pisses me off. I'm going to be completely 100% honest. That still bothers me.
The moral of the story is, try to provide for yourself as much context as you can in your political life. Don't look at a 26-word meme and think that you're getting the whole story from it.
Yes.
So, and in your life, don't well, how many is it? 70? How many ever characters is it? 140 on the tweeter machine?
It's very limited.
Yeah.
Or when you're a $1 billion organization, just, have thicker skin.
So anyway, my point is, while Sonny Gray is a very good pitcher, and he is our number one, he is not a number one. And there's only a handful of big-time real number ones in Major League Baseball.
He wasn't even the number one for the Twins.
No, that's
the point. He wasn't even the number one guy.
Yeah.
He's more of a complimentary. He's your number two. And there's nothing wrong with that. But to present him as an ace is not the case.
Right. And he says that despite what happened yesterday, and it was not a great outing for Sonny Gray in Florida. He went 3 innings and he allowed 8 runs on 6 hits, walked 5 and struck out 5. He said,
You went through that really quickly.
yeah, well, okay. It's, 3 innings, 8 runs, 6 hits.
Yeah.
All the runs were earned, 5 walks and 5 strikeouts. But he says, hey, you know what? I've been working on stuff. I'm ready to get home to St. Louis so that we can say, Sonny came home. So 10 days from today is the Cardinals opener against the Twins. And so we wanted to start off here by wondering about opening day and Gray being named the Cardinals opening day starter. Who the hell else are they going to name the opening day starter?
I was hoping for Miles Michaelis. Just kidding. I just wanted to see if anybody else was feeling that way. I mean, I don't know how everybody else is feeling about that. No, who else are you going to name the opening day starter? Of course, it's going to be Sonny Gray. But here's the part where part of me, I understand he's a veteran, he's working on stuff. But I do get a little bit concerned with the numbers because you mentioned yesterday was just a really, really rough day for him. He somehow appeared in 5 innings, but only technically pitched 3 innings because they took him out of the game. He says he was working on some stuff. You mentioned he was charged with 8 runs yesterday in a spring training game somehow, even though he was pulled and was in and out of the game. So his spring ERA has risen to 13.97. So that is a little bit scary. I understand that he's working on things, Randy, but one thing that always concerns me, and maybe you can kind of talk me off the cliff here when we're talking about spring training and guys working on stuff, is velo. So the one thing that has concerned me is his velocity is slightly down and he's kind of lacked control of most of his pitches. Is that something that I pay attention to in spring training with any pitcher, veteran or not?
I believe that Sonny Gray is a guy that really knows his body well and walks into spring training, and he's already in great shape, but builds that arm and velo up over the course of the 6 weeks. And I believe he'll probably have one more start in spring training. I believe that he'll be fine on opening day against the Twins. He'll be ready to go 5 innings and allow a couple runs, maybe 6 innings.
Hopefully not some home runs, because that's something else that he's given up a lot. Last year, we know that he gave up a lot of home runs. How many home runs did he give up last season? It was more that he has in his entire 20s, career.
I think,
So he gave up a lot of home run balls last year, as we all noticed. And so far, he's allowed 6 home runs over 9 1/3 innings this spring training. So I hope that that's not a trend that's carrying over from last season, where we're going to continue to see this. But when the velo's down, that always kind of just freaks me out a little bit with the pitcher.
21 home runs allowed last year. And it was 8 the year before. He had that career year in Minnesota. And I think people in the Cardinals front office expected that, okay, he had figured something out and had his career, had a year in 2023 at the age of 33 that he could replicate in 2024. I don't think when you have that career year, and it was close to might not have been his absolute career year, but it was pretty close. When you have that kind of a year, let's say it's tied for first, I think it's unreasonable to expect a guy who's played 11 years to say, okay, he's going to be able to have another year, like his best year in his 12th year. And again, I want to reiterate this for the Cardinals, and especially in a year like this, he's fine as a number 1 starter for this particular team. It's kind of like being the number 1 starter of the Reds when he was there, the number 1 starter for the A's when he was there, or the number 1 starter for the Twins when he was there before Pablo Lopez got there, right?
Randy.
Randy. For our particular team in 2025, he's fine. He is. Let me put it this way: there's nobody else that is going to be the Cardinals' number 1 starter, and unless and until they get McGreevy into the rotation,
develop
get Matthews into the rotation. I don't know if it'll ever be Palante, but I think Matthews has a chance to be a number 1 starter.
I need to find a term for the way that you like Butch and Sundance people through the happy parts of an argument, and then at the very end it's just right off the cliff. Well, it's just a complete smile on your face, hand in hand with your best friend, right off the cliff.
Here's the thing. I try to be rational about this stuff. I don't blindly believe that the Cardinals are going to be great, but I also think that one of the things that's happened in society is that we've lost sight of gray, not sunny, but the color. And so people in whatever walk of life, it's either that's great or that's terrible.
Yeah.
Well, the Cardinals are meh. They aren't going to be terrible. They'll probably win between 79 and 82 games.
And I think that that's good with a young group.
Exactly. But they aren't going to be great. They aren't going to be like what we saw in 2005 or 2004 or in all those years they went to the LCS in a row. They aren't going to be that good. But I think that you look at a guy, Sonny Gray is a perfect example because people want to make a determination. Oh, he's either great or he's terrible. He's neither. He is average.
He is. Yes, he is average. And when you compare it to some of the other opening day starters, I don't know if we want to go ahead and show this because a lot of the other teams obviously have been naming their opening day starters. And I think this is pretty realistic when we're ranking guys. So obviously starting from the bottom up, Randy worked on this and you don't have Randy. I mean, you don't have Randy. You don't have Sonny at the bottom.
No, I don't even.
He's more of that average. We don't want to reveal who just yet because we're only doing 5 at a time.
So what do you think of this, Brooke? This is and we'll do these over the course of the week. These are my rankings for opening day starters.
I think that the one that is so surprising to me is that the Mets have Clay Holmes as their opening day starter. Kyle Freeland is like a tradition for the Rockies at this point, a bad tradition, but it's a tradition. I got to find a spring training or not a spring training, his opening day numbers because they're just atrocious. I think this is a very fair one. Sean Burke, we don't know anything about him, so that's why he's obviously at the bottom.
Yeah, former NHL goalie, apparently.
This is a side gig. This is a side gig at this point. But I think clearly we know some of the guys who are going to be at the top. Not to give anything away, but I have a feeling that Sonny Gray will be towards the middle-ish on your list because he's what you're talking about. He's just average.
Right. And Burke is an unknown. Clay Holmes has only started 4 major league games.
I can't believe that.
And a team.
But also all of his 300 appearances since 2019, I'm reading right here, come in relief.
Right. Yeah.
So he's making that transition to the starting rotation.
And they signed him to a 3-year, $38 million contract.
I can't believe that with the Mets.
Yeah. Here's the second highest payroll in baseball.
And that's what you're going with. Yeah. Nothing against, and I don't want to be mean to Clay Holmes. I'm sure he's a great guy.
But he's an unknown. That's why I have him at number 29. Kyle Freeland of Colorado. Yeah. Eflin of Baltimore, better as a reliever. And then Severino of the A's is number 26. This is from Ribbon Up Cards, our buddy. I know you're talking number 1 versus ace, and we'll be ranking all of the opening day pitchers, but how many aces are left in the league? Not many. You're 100% right. And if you have 2 of those guys, then you're like, if you're the Philadelphia Phillies and you have Wheeler and Nola, and they have more than just Wheeler and Nola, you're in really, really, really good shape. There aren't many teams. And you know what? A team that might have 2 of them is Pittsburgh.
Yes,
with Skeens and Jared Jones.
Oh, Skeens is so good.
And you know who's had a really good spring is our buddy Jack Flaherty.
He has
Scooble and Flaherty.
That's a good 1-2 punch that you have there. So Kyle Freeland, by the way, for those who care about Kyle Freeland and the Rockies, he's allowed 15 runs across his previous 2 opening day outings.
Oh man. Yeah,
so
they have a lot to look forward to.
Yes, they do. They do. And Brandon Smith says, ranked based on what? This is just
my opinion.
Just Randy's opinion. You see, it says Randy Karraker's opening day starter rankings. You see, I could have put Kyle Freeland just if we're basing off of history, I could have put him a little bit more towards the bottom, but then we don't know much about Sean Burke, as we mentioned. We haven't seen him in the majors. Clay Holmes, he's transitioning from being mostly a relief role to now the starter for the Mets, which is just shocking. And Kyle Freeland doesn't have the best track record as the Rockies opening day starters we just talked about there. With those other guys, you just don't know much about them with Burke and Holmes.
Feel free, by the way.
How else would you be ranking pitchers? Other than your opinion, yes, but I assume you're using using numbers.
Last year's WAR.
You love WAR.
Not a bad way to not a bad stat to use when you're comparing 2 players playing the same position. But I assume ERA, strikeouts, the things you use to usually compare pitchers.
Yeah, right.
Okay, just making
sure. But a lot of it is like the way I look.
We're not going off beard length and girlfriend hotness.
Basically, it was okay.
What?
Who would
it
I
could
rather?
Be a way.
Yeah. Would I rather have pitcher A or pitcher B? Would I rather, and then I get to the next 2. Would I rather have pitcher A or pitcher B? And I went down the list. So that's how we're going to have it over the course of the next few days. Zach Gallen and Corbin Burns, and don't forget Brandon Pfaadt in Arizona. They've got some pretty good ones. Yeah, if you have a couple of those guys, you're in really good shape. Bill Downton, Sorry, but a number one pitcher must go 215 innings on a year. This is not on a year, not this 5 or 6 innings. That means we don't have any number one pitchers left.
No. And then your number 2 for the Cardinals, Eric Fetty, but you have Miles Michaelis as your number 2. That kind of shows you where the drop off is a little bit.
I think here's the sad
You
part
definitely don't have the 1-2 punch. What do you call it?
The 1-2. The 1-2. Yeah. the 1-2 get punched.
Yeah.
Here's the thing with the Cardinals. I think that so let's just presume that it's going to be Michaelis, Fetty, Matz, Palante. I honestly think that right now, if you're just going to go by the quality of the guy and take money out of the equation, take contracts out of not quality of the guy, quality of the pitcher. I think right now my number 2 starter would be Michael McGreevy.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like he's going to make the starting rotation though to start the season.
No, it doesn't. But if everybody was making $1 million,
exactly, yeah,
I think McGreevy would be number 2.
I'm with you on that. I think that he should be a part of the starting rotation, but they weren't able to move any of these veteran guys. I still think it maybe looking back, one of the mistakes the Cardinals made. They tried to move Nolan Arenado. They probably should have tried to move Fetty at a certain point.
Yeah, and they still might. There's got to be a team out there, isn't there, that for $7.5 million, even if the Cardinals would take $2 million or $2.5 million, $5 million, plug him into the back of your rotation. He's got to be valuable for somebody.
Yes, and we do have a poll going right now that says, "Do you consider Sonny Gray an ace?" And by a very strong 70%, what I'm seeing right now is no. So we have a lot of very smart, rational fans who are on the chat right now.
And Brooke, and for those of you that listen on the radio, you may know what my issues are with, and they aren't really issues, but it's just a reality with Sonny Gray, is especially in a town like this, where it gets to be 100 degrees in July and August. He's not a guy that is really stout. He's not the biggest fella. He's not Chris Carpenter, 6'5" and 240, 6'6" and 240. And what happens with Sonny is that inevitably he has really bad months. And that's happened throughout his career. And it's just hard for a guy like that to make 32 starts, especially when he has to do it in hot weather and be successful the whole time. And his career, let me give you his months, okay? So he's a really good pitcher in April, March and April, 2.95 ERA, May 3.65, June 3.78, all very acceptable. But then you get to July, 3.86. Then he's fine in August, but then at the end of the year, because he's a little fella, 4.07 earned run.
And he gets really hot.
He's worn out, right? After those hot months of July and August, he's worn out in September. You
can see him really laboring, especially in those hot months. Good news this season. I think that it should be happening this season, right? They're getting rid of those Nike sweat uniforms.
Right. Yeah, those are stupid. Yeah, they got the regular.
Because you could really, his jersey was drenched. Yeah, especially, didn't they say that he was like changing several times throughout the game?
He's a sweater.
He is a sweater. Yes, he sweats a lot.
Well, no, that's how sweater is spelled. But he's not like a sweater that you wear.
No.
He's a person that sweats, which is a sweater.
Yes.
I never put that together until right now.
It's one of those moments.
Yeah, 10-20.
Yeah. Yes. Until 10-20 at this very moment.
March 17th, 2025, I realized that a sweater is spelled the same way as a sweater.
Eric Cleveland, before we get to John Denton of MLB.com, which we'll talk to him in a moment, we'll actually have him on video, Randy. So a nice little update. Eric Cleveland has a good question here. How feasible would a 6-man rotation be for the Cardinals? They've toyed with this a lot. Do you see them maybe going with the 6-man rotation?
I do not. And there are a couple of reasons. Number one, this is sad that it goes back to the money, but it does. I think they want to get a certain amount of starts out of people like Gray and Michaelis and even Matz this year. And Fetty's only making $7.5 million. I think the other part of it is throughout their lives, pitchers have gotten into this routine of being in a 5-man rotation. Not guys that pitched in Japan, but it's really hard for baseball players who are creatures of habit to change that habit and not go every 5th day.
Well, you've even seen with the Japanese pitchers coming over that's a huge adjustment for them when they come over here because it is different. But I just wonder because we discussed this on Friday in Katie Woo's latest article the Cardinals had mentioned that they are impressed by Matthew Liberatore and they maybe want to give him a shot in the starting rotation. But how do they even give him a shot in the starting rotation? Does that mean that he'll be like a swing man at a certain point this season?
What do you think of the idea of moving Matz to the bullpen?
I like it personally.
Yeah,
I thought he was great. I think he's great. I think that's a role that works for him. And if you're worried about health with Steven Matz, keeping him in the bullpen would be the best way to keep him healthy.
And the way I would look at this, and I know it's harsh because we like Steven Matz a lot.
Friend of the show.
He's a good guy. Friend of the show. Yeah. But he's not going to be here after this year anyway. So why not build for 26? That's the goal in 25 is to build for 26.
You're already doing it with the other positions.
Yeah. So why not let Matthew Liberatore build for 26 too?
I think that's a great idea. I think that you should move Steven Matz to the bullpen. And we could talk with John Denton of MLB.com about that right now. John is joining us live from Jupiter, Florida, and he is coming into the show. Oh, there's John.
Hey,
oh, my gosh. Look at that.
Driving.
John, how are you doing?
I'm pretty good. I'm a little wind blown.
Oh,
What little hair I have left is blowing all around. So the winds are whipping pretty good here in Florida. We had a crazy storm about 5 a.m. this morning, but as you can tell now, the sun's out, but it's very windy.
Hey, that's Florida weather for you. Like 1 minute, it could be possible hurricane weather. The next, it's beautiful and sunny out there. And it looks like you got a nice tan going on. So I know you've been busy with pickleball, John.
Yeah, just a little bit of pickleball. Not as much as I would like, but I mean, sometimes work gets in the way of fun. So
there we go.
I'll get it going when we get back to St. Louis, no doubt.
Yeah. Well, John, obviously a lot to go over since we last talked to you. We were just discussing Matthew Liberatore and how he gets a shot in the starting rotation. It seems like the Cardinals have been impressed with what they've seen from him so far in spring training. How does he get a shot in the starting rotation?
Yeah, I think the Cardinals are kind of torn between this year and the future. Undoubtedly, the Matthew Liberatore's worth to the Cardinals would be better as a bullpen guy this year, but for the long term, it would be as a starter. So this is kind of the crux of every argument that they have. Are they trying to win this year, or are they playing for the future? And Matthew Liberatore is kind of the poster child for that. He's at they need him in the bullpen right now more than ever after losing Andrew Kittredge. But for his long-term good, it would be as a starter. I think he'll start off in the bullpen, because that's where he fits this team the most right now. But eventually, hey, if they fall out of it, maybe they moved Libby to a starting role.
Hey, John, you and I are kindred spirits. I think we're both pretty optimistic when we look at things. So I'm sure a lot of times you come on a show and you get the question, what are you most concerned about? My question for you is, what are you most impressed by so far this spring with the Cardinals?
Randy, this is a little odd, but I mean, how Wilson Contreras has played at first base, I'm really impressed by that. I'm actually writing about that today for Cardinals.com and MLB.com. He's handled it really well, the transition from catcher to first base. He's played 11 major league games there, but he hadn't really played there since 2019. He had a 3-2-3 double play on Saturday that looked like something a Gold Glover would do. So, Ali Marmol said of the surprises they've had, of the pleasant surprises they've had so far, Wilson Contreras making the transition from catcher to first base has been very seamless.
Going back to pitchers, obviously Sonny Gray being named the Cardinals' opening day starter, but his numbers have not exactly been great this spring training. He is a veteran, so of course he's working on things. You try not to get too concerned, but we were talking about this earlier. His velo is down just a little bit. Is there any concerns coming from the Cardinals or anything that you're seeing about Sonny Gray going into the season?
Typically, as it happens here, if a player's not playing well, it's brushed aside as, well, it's just spring training, But I do have my concerns. I mean, Sonny had a bad second half last year. I was listening to you guys before I came on. You guys are dead on about Sonny being a small guy and wearing down in the heat. I mean, he pulled his hamstring here last year. That was a hydration issue. It happened when he was, on a hot day, he's pitching, he pulled his hamstring. If you look at after the All-Star break last year, he had a 5.20 ERA after the All-Star break. 13 of the 21 home runs he gave up last year were after the All-Star break. So this is not just a spring training issue. This dates back to, the middle of last season. So the velo's down. But, Sonny said yesterday, he said, I'll be there when the popcorn's popping, when the lights go on. My velo will be there when there's 50,000 at Busch Stadium. He thinks it's just a matter of time. But I do think it has to be concerning that this is not just a spring training issue. This dates back to, the end of last season.
John, what are they saying about getting an opportunity for Michael McGreevy in the rotation this year? Maybe not on opening day, but sometime this year.
You know, Randy, I think they've been so impressed with him that they're actually considering a 6-man rotation now. Ollie Marmol told the media that this morning. All the coaching staff are going to talk about it. The kid has been really impressive. I mean, you go back to last season, he pitched in 4 games. He was 3-0. The last game of the season against the Giants, he threw a 5-hitter, allowed 1 run. I mean, the kid has earned it. And if you're truly valuing competition, if you want spring training to matter, the kid has earned a spot. And you know, I really think they're contemplating this 6-man rotation all because they want Michael McGreevy in St. Louis. You know, he doesn't need to be a reliever. He needs to be a starter. And the way to do that is maybe a 6-man rotation early in the season. And then maybe you make a change after a month.
Another position battle that everybody's watching around right now, John, is the center field position. It seems like that competition is still ongoing. Is there any updates? It seems like they're still high on Lars Nootbaar possibly being the Cardinals center fielder, but then Victor Scott II has emerged, of course, in that conversation. And you have Ciani, but is there any update on how that center field competition is going?
Well, kind of seems like sort of an inside joke today. Ollie Marmol has Mike Ciani and Victor Scott playing next to each other in left field and center field. And then he has the 2 utility guys who are competing for one spot. Jose Fermin and Jose Barrero are playing next to each other at third and short. So I think they're really putting them side by side today. But, I mean, if we're going by competition, you know, Victor Scott has won this. He's hit the ball better. He's been just as good defensively. The Cardinals love Michael Ciani. You know, Oliver Marmol loves him because of the way he defends. Now, is he going to give you enough at the plate? History says he's probably not. They don't want to put Lars Nootbaar in center field. If they need offense, if they're pressed to the point where they have to find offense, you put him out there. But, you know, we all know Lars is the injury history. He's been on the IL 5 times in the last 2 years. They want Lars Nootbaar to play 140, 150 games this year. The best way to possibly keep him healthy is to, you know, keep him in left field. I think right now Victor has the head up in the job, but Ciani's he's the incumbent. And what do they always say, Randy? You got to knock the champion out. So if it's neck and neck on the final day, maybe they stick with Ciani because they know what they have in him.
John, along the lines of Nootbaar, you wrote about him earlier at Cardinals.com, and his peripheral numbers are off the charts. He's like in the top 10% of pretty much everything in terms of exit velocity, in terms of chase rate, walk rate. He's really, really good. And the Cardinals knew about those peripheral numbers when they wouldn't trade him a couple of years ago. And the A's member wanted him in a Sean Murphy trade. What are you seeing this spring from Nootbaar? And you wrote about he has a real desire to stay healthy, but if he stays healthy, can he be what they expected him to be?
Yeah, that's the hope, Randy. I mean, you look at all the underlying metrics. Toronto was another team that was asking for Nootbaar a couple years ago in a trade, and the Cardinals said no. You know, when you look at the exit velocity numbers, when you look at the hard hit rate, when you look at the lack of chase, his walk rate, how he gets on base. I mean, those are among the highest players in the league. You're talking about the Juan Sotos and the Vladimir Guerrero Juniors and the Shohei Ohtani's. That's the neighborhood he's in. But he just has to come down to playing every day. He has to get a run of good luck. If you look at the injuries, they've kind of been freakish. You know, he slid into third, hooked his thumb on the bag and hurt his thumb. He fell against the wall and hurt his back. He fouled a pitch off his groin area. He broke 2 ribs when his elbow stuck into his rib cage at the wall. It's kind of freaky things. He just feels like, and the Cardinals feel like, if we can get 140, 150 games, 550 at-bats out of this guy, that finally his production will catch up with the potential and catch up with those numbers. No, he hasn't done what those other superstars have done, but if you can get a good run of success, maybe the Cardinals can find out exactly what they have in Lars Nootbaar.
And if you wanted to build a really athletic lineup, for example, if you had Wynn leading off and Nootbaar hitting second, doing what we're talking about, what sort of a top of the lineup would that look like for you in regards to other tops of the lineup in baseball?
Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, if Victor's going to hit the ball the way he has this spring, he's looked really good. He looks a lot more athletic. Ryan Ludwig worked with him a lot last year. He's got him picking up that front foot, doing kind of a leg kick, so he looks a lot better at the plate. You know, if if you could tell the Cardinals right now that Victor Scott would hit 250, 260 and play a good center field, they would take that right now in a heartbeat, because he's going to steal 35, 40 bases, maybe even more. And then, all the statistical analytics people tell you that Lars Nootbaar should probably hit second in the order, because he takes his walks, because he works deep in counts, he gets on base. That would be a pretty, high potential first two in the order. But, hey, they've got to do it. I know Cardinal fans are kind of tired of hearing about Lars Nootbaar's potential. They want to see him do it.
John, a lot of candidates for who could be the Cardinals' breakout player this season, but who do you expect to be the Cardinals' breakout player this season?
Maybe somebody under the radar, but Ryan Fernandez. He was a kid that was stuck on the team last year. He was a Rule 5 pick, so he had to stay on the roster all year, or he had to go back to the Red Sox.
Oh, that was a great answer.
No, he had the answer was happening there.
The answer was happening.
Or he had to go back to the Red Sox. So just remember that for when we get John Denton back.
Yeah, we'll try to work on getting John to it.
Oh, we got him.
Oh, we got him back.
Sorry about that, guys. I had a dang
or else he had to go back to the Red Sox. Please continue.
Yeah. I mean, I think Ryan Fernandez could really take a step this year. He could be that guy. He could be the next Andrew Kittredge. He could be the guy to handle those high leverage innings in the 8th inning, to get the ball to Ryan Helsley. That's a big role that they're trying to fill, and they've already seen. Fernandez has been really good this spring. In addition to having one of the best sliders in the game, he's working on a changeup. I think he could take the next step. He's a guy. Chaim Bloom deserves all the credit. He had a 6.5 ERA in AAA with the Red Sox. You can't tell me Chaim Bloom didn't say, go get that guy. So that gives Cardinal fans a little hope of how good of a talent evaluator Chaim Bloom is. But Ryan Fernandez could be a guy that takes that next step.
Hey, John, why have the Cardinals developed this affinity for Jose Barrero?
Randy, he looks like they call him Rick James is his nickname. He's got the curly hair. He's 6'4", strapping guy. He looks like a 6-time All-Star. He's got the mirrored sunglasses, and then you watch him play short. You watch him play left. He's the best athlete in the room already, but then he gets to the plate, and that's where the struggles begin. The Reds gave him $5 million signing bonus back in the day. They believed in him. The Rangers drafted him. They thought they could turn him into something. He looks like an all-star, a 10-time all-star when you see him walking through the clubhouse, when you see him playing defense. But is he going to hit enough? And they're trying to get him to focus more on hitting line drives instead of hitting home runs. They're intrigued by him because he's such a great athlete. Just the question is just whether is he going to hit enough or not.
Okay, I got one more thing. I have two more things, but I want to start with this. My lineup for opening day, and I'm not the lineup, but my 9, I'm going to have in left field Nootbaar. Not what I think. This is what I think they'll have: Nootbaar, Ciani, Walker, Arenado, Wynn, Donovan, Contreras, and then either Pages or Herrera behind the plate. And then that makes Gorman my DH, and that puts Alec Burleson on the bench. Do you see it that way?
I think it will probably go that way, but if I was making out the lineup card, Randy, Alec Burleson needs to play 5 days a week, 6 days a week, maybe 7 days a week. He is one of the guys in that clubhouse who puts the bat on the ball. He doesn't strike out. He's a consistent hitter. I know he tailed off a little bit last season, but I want to play Nolan Gorman and I want to get Jordan Walker at bats. But I'm telling you, if this team is serious about scoring runs, they're going to have to find a way to get Alec Burleson in that lineup 4 or 5 times a week at least. And
this is why, and Brooke and I have talked about this, it's a shame that they weren't able to move Arenado for his own good. But the big thing for them, like you say, they want to get those 3 guys, Walker, Burleson, and Gorman at bats. And Gorman, by all rights, this year should be the third baseman if the Cardinals were doing what they wanted to do.
Yeah, it has such a trickle-down effect. The inability to make that trade has a big-time trickle-down effect on the Gormans, the Burlesons, the Walkers. It puts if Nolan Arenado is gone, Gorman's at third, and then Donovan doesn't have to play left field. He can just focus on second base, and you could get Alec Burleson in the lineup and not have to worry about that. So you're right. It does have a total trickle-down effect.
Okay. Finally, John, this is our question of the day. Obviously, Sonny Gray is our ace. He's our number one. But is Sonny Gray a number one? If you go around baseball, is Sonny Gray a number one and ace pitcher?
Well, Randy, his numbers from last season would suggest yes. I mean, he set the all-time Cardinal record for strikeouts per 9 innings. I mean, that's a history that includes Bob Gibson and Steve Carlton and Chris Carpenter, all-time legends in this organization. He has that record. The highest percentage of strikeouts. Sonny Gray now has that record. So the numbers would suggest it. But like you said, he has a tendency to wear down late in seasons. He's 35 now. If Sonny Gray was 31, I would say yes, absolutely. But at 35, you might be in trouble if he's your ace, but he's still a dang good pitcher and a really good competitor.
That's exactly the way I feel. He's really good. He's not Zach Wheeler. He's not even Blake Snell, but he's a really good pitcher.
Yeah, yes, I agree. I mean, he's a number one competitor too. He will fight his butt off out there on the mound. But like I said, if he was 31, there would be no question about it. But he's 35 now, and that has an effect, no doubt.
All right, John. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And how do you feel about Tennessee basketball? We're about to talk about some March Madness. I know that you had to have hate because Tennessee fans hate Florida, and then seeing them lose in the SEC title tournament, that is really hard to see. But at the same time, Tennessee basketball has been really good this year. Elite Eight or bust.
Yeah, Brooke, I'd rather talk about Tennessee sweeping Florida in baseball this weekend. We're a baseball school now.
Oh, okay.
No,
Transition quickly.
Tennessee's a good defensive team. They don't have enough offensively, I'm afraid. Last year they did. They had Dalton Connect. Last year was their year to win it, and the referees decided to send Zach Edey to the free throw line about 40 times. So not that I'm bitter or anything.
Oh, man.
But we'll see. Maybe they can make a run. I mean, that would be a heck of if they could get to the Elite Eight game and play Houston, that would be a knockdown, drag out. First team to 50 points probably wins that game. So I hope they get to that point and get to play Houston.
By the way, the late, great Rick Hummel used to, his nickname was the Commish. The best NCAA tournament pool was the one down in spring training with the Cardinals. Has anybody maintained that tradition? Do you know if anybody's going to put together a pool down there?
Sadly, we have not, but we talked about it for about 20 minutes this morning, how Commish would be getting the brackets together. He always carried that big manila envelope around. Mm-hmm. Even on days when Commish was off, he would come in with his manila folder trying to sell brackets to the players and that sort of thing. So we miss him. What a legendary guy. I was lucky. My first year was his last year at the Post-Dispatch, so I had a lot of nights walking out of the press box with Commish. And it's one of the highlights of my career to be able to sit next to him in a press box and have worked with him for a year. And like I said, we were just talking about it this morning, how Commish would be getting his brackets together today. Today would be a big day for him, so we're thinking of him.
No doubt. He is sorely missed. John, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it. Can't wait to see you here on the 27th. We're only 10 days away from opening day.
Yep. It'll be here before you know it. Before you know it, guys. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, John.
And you can read John Denton's fantastic work at Cardinals.com, MLB.com, and he's really on top of things with the Cardinals, and we appreciate him joining us.
Yes, always great hearing from John. And there's a lot of interesting tidbits there, of course, anytime that you speak with John. And there is a question, though, if you could bring that up, Rocchio, that I thought this was a good one from Bill Downton, and he asked why Koperniak got sent down. So Koperniak has been great during the spring training. I mean, really has been really good. He's went, 11 for 31, 2 homers, and 6 RBIs for the Cardinals during spring training. But we kind of discussed this before when we were looking at the bench. There was just not any room, and he was a little redundant on this roster because they have so many left-handed hitters who are already making the cut.
Yeah, I tried to, when Katie Wu wrote her piece yesterday in The Athletic, I tried to point it out. So let's assume, because Koperniak is going to be a bench player. Mm-hmm. So let's say your last 3 hitters in the lineup are Jordan Walker hitting 7th, Pages hitting 8th, and Siani hitting 9th. Those are your last 3.
Yes.
Okay, so you're down a run, 9th inning. He's not, and the other team has a right-handed pitcher, a right-handed closer coming in. He's not going to pinch hit for Walker. Okay, you aren't going to because you only have 4 bench players, you aren't going to use 2 with one fell swoop by hitting Koperniak for a catcher and then having another catcher come in. So Herrera would be the hitter for Pages. Herrera is a good enough hitter. And then for Ciani against that right-hander, sure, maybe you hit Koperniak, but you still have another hitter on the bench. You still have Alec Burleson on the bench. So would you rather hit Burleson, an experienced major league hitter, or Koperniak? So you really don't, even as a pinch hitter, have a great spot for Matt Koperniak to fit in here. And I've said this before. I think I said it to you. If Koperniak was a right-handed hitter, he'd have the team made.
Oh, 100%. It's just the right guy, wrong situation.
Yeah, right.
The timing is just not right. Wait, what is it? All that saying that you hear with people sometimes with dating, where it's like wrong time, right person.
Yeah, right.
Like he is the right person. He's super talented. He's done everything correct during the spring training, but he's a casualty of what they already have on the roster, so he is redundant. Bill also asked, why keep Ciani? Why keep Ciani?
Well, and there's a couple of reasons, as you heard John Denton say. The manager loves Michael Ciani, and the manager doesn't really care about the offensive statistics that players put up in spring training. He really does like the upside, the offensive upside of Michael Ciani, who, by the way, was just a few defensive innings away from being a Gold Glover last year. He's good. He's
very talented.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so they're big, and I'm glad they are. They've changed their MO. They're big on defense up the middle. And that's how I think you win in baseball. Regardless of how everything has changed, having great defense up the middle makes a lot of difference. And they aren't completely sold yet on Victor Scott, again, because they don't necessarily believe everything they see in March or September.
Yes. And Redbirds 92 says, makes total sense why Koperniak was sent down. Stinks to not have a spot for him. Excited for his future with the Cardinals. Exactly.
He's 27.
Is he 27?
Is it unreasonable for me to say at this point what future? And it's not anything against him. It's just that
I thought he was a little bit younger than that. Wow.
St. Louis fans like to get attached to the 27-year-old who's been grinding in AAA for a long time and has big springs. And I understand that. I get that feeling, but there's a reason why this is a story we've seen a lot, and there's a reason why it's a story we all like, because when it does break through, it's fun and it's a great story and we love that. But Joe Mather was a flavor of the month for a reason. Like this is why these things happen. And so I just think the reality of the situation is unfortunate, but it's the reality of the situation.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the Cardinals don't perceive him as a better option than Noot Bar or Burleson or Donovan or even Ciani at this point.
Exactly. Bub says lots of injury-prone players, so keeping a Ciani type like a guy around isn't bad. We just heard what John Denton said about Lars Nootbaar. They're very high on Lars Nootbaar this year, and hopefully he can stay healthy. But he's had some just freakish injuries happen where he's been on the injured list. What did he say? 5 times in the last 2 years?
And it's not pulled hamstrings and stuff like that.
No, it's things that keep him out. And even Jordan Walker, injury prone as well, that we have seen. Some of it self-inflicted and some of it is a sprinkler getting in the way. Yeah. But that happens. So I understand Ciani being around, because if you saw him, especially last season defensively, it makes a lot of sense. He's fantastic as a center fielder. So now we have to talk about the Grim Report, because we have to get into some March Madness. We have to get into some March Madness, Randy.
I do want people to know, though,
yes,
and I don't even know if Matthew knows this, but Cards Up 365 is coming up later today, is it not? It's powered by Gray Bar. It comes up after the Cardinals spring training game against the Washington Nationals, and you will have it live right here on Sports Hub STL right after the Cardinals game. And you can also get the show on demand from YouTube following the live broadcast, as well as on Apple, Spotify, or any other major podcast outlet. Cards Hub 365, your daily content right here on Sports Hub STL, powered by Gray Bar, your distributor for electrical and datacom needs. And looking forward to that. It's every Cardinal game, every post game, you'll hear and watch right here on Sports Hub STL with Cards Hub 365.
Now it's time for the Grim Report. We're getting into some March Madness because Mizzou did lose in the SEC tournament to Florida, though. Florida is really good, by the way, guys. They obviously won it all. 95-81, the final score. But Mizzou will be a 6 seed and will face Duke, the 11 seed. And Drake. Why did I put Duke in here? Excuse me.
Close.
I did this late last night, so that's going to be my
with
fault.
a D has a K
Yes,
and an E.
you know, in pretty good basketball schools. 11 seed in the first round of the Big Dance. And for the SEC, 14 teams made it to the Big Dance, which is huge. It broke a previous record set by the Big East of a mark of 11. So that's a huge deal for the SEC. Dennis Gates mentioned, I don't know if you guys saw where he was on the SEC network. He said prior to us finding out on Sunday that the SEC deserved to have 14 teams in the field of 68. And of course it happened. I think that it was the right thing to do. I think all 14 of those teams deserve to be in the Big Dance.
I agree with you 100%. I can't find a team out there that didn't make the tournament where I say, oh, that team's clearly better than Texas. So I think that the committee on that point got it right. I know Matthew's not thrilled with North Carolina making the tournament, but I think for the most part, the committee did a pretty good job. He's
chewing.
Sorry, I was chewing something.
It's okay.
I didn't know you were going to go to me here. Yeah, it's ridiculous that UNC made the tournament in a way, because there's two sides of the argument, and UNC is not the only question. Texas was, like you said, a pretty deep bubble team. Xavier was a pretty deep bubble team. West Virginia seemed like the easy pick out of those ones. People are wondering, did Indiana get held back because they don't have a head coach? But the thing with UNC is they go 1-12 in Q1 games. And I tweeted this out yesterday. Part of me wants to say college basketball rewarding teams for scheduling a very hard non-conference schedule is a good message to send to college basketball. And that's what UNC did. They scheduled hard. They had the fourth hardest non-conference schedule in the country. They went 1-12 in Q1 games. So the tournament, the committee said, we will reward you for scheduling games and that you can control and how hard those games are, even if you do not win them. And some people have a problem with that, but I think it's a good message overall to send. But the fact that that message then results in a UNC blue blood beating out a non-blue blood like West Virginia or potentially another mid-major, people throwing out there would be, because we're in a city with an A10 school, people are throwing out what happens if VCU doesn't win the A10 tournament with a resume that should be an NCAA tournament team. They would have been left out if they would have lost the A10 tournament. And so I see both sides of the argument, which is only Power 5 teams are going to be able to schedule heavy because mid-majors aren't, then Power 5 teams aren't going to want to schedule mid-majors because it won't give them Q1 teams. And so how are mid-majors supposed to get into the schedule better conversation if P5 teams are then forced to do it? So I understand both sides of the argument. So I get why it's problematic for UNC, but at the same time, playing 13 Q1 games is a good thing for a blue blood to do for college basketball, even if they don't win them.
Yes, it is. And I just look at it this way. And we'll move on from the snubs here in a moment. But just by the nature of being North Carolina, even though they didn't have a great year, North Carolina is going to have good players. They don't even have to try hard to have good players. So they are a team that has a better chance to go, even though they had a bad year for North Carolina, they're a team that has a better chance to go on a 6-game winning streak in a tournament than a West Virginia or than any A10 team, just because they have more good players than those teams do.
How do you guys feel about Mizzou's chances in the tournament?
You know what? Brooke, I think Drake is a team that can win a couple of games in the tournament. I think this is a terrible draw for Mizzou. Drake is a great defensive team. They can set tempo, and we know how Mizzou likes to run. Drake is very well coached by Ben McCollum. They have a great player that can take over a game in Bennett Sturts, as we saw here in St. Louis in the Valley tournament. They're 30-3. They know how to win. I would not be at all surprised if Drake won a game or two in this tournament.
I wouldn't either. I think that this is a really tough matchup for Mizzou. What did you want to say, Rock?
My one thing I will throw out is their starting lineup for most games. They have, Bennett Sturts 6'4", Daniel Abreu 6'6", 220, Michma Mascari 6'5", 200, Tavion Banks 6'7", 200. I've seen him listed at like 6'6", 6'5" as well. They have Cam Minyahu at 6'9", 228, but it's just like they're not a big team. And so if Mark Mitchell's 100% healthy, him having like a 24 in 8 game is not unlikely and is kind of the key to them winning. But at the same time, when you have a team that can shoot the lights out during the tournament, I mean, we always talk about this. You go 10 for 28 from deep, and that completely shifts the conversation. And all of a sudden, Mark Mitchell's shooting isn't, or Mark Mitchell's paint inside presence is as much of a factor. But that's, I think, where it's going to bend potentially in Mizzou's favor.
I think it's really important for Mizzou to be patient in this game.
Yeah,
because Drake is going to try to slow it down and make it a slog, right? Relatively speaking, in basketball terms, in 2025. Mizzou wants to get up and down the court. So I think Mizzou offensively, they're going to be able to do what they want to do. But I think they have to hang with the fact that Drake is going to want to slow the tempo. And it's easy to get impatient and maybe take a second off when you're playing defense. And Mizzou can't afford to do that.
I guess, and Mizzou fans can weigh in on the chat on this, because I want to know, there was no expectations, I felt like, going in for Mizzou basketball going into the season, because they didn't win a conference game at all last year. So to go from that to this is a huge accomplishment, but would it feel like you didn't accomplish what you wanted to if you get knocked out in the first round?
Yes, undoubtedly.
Yeah.
Because of the potential that you've seen. And also they've had some huge resume wins this season.
A month ago, I was thinking that this was a team that was capable of going to the Final Four. Now, how many games is it? I think it's 6 out of 8. No, 7 out of 9 now, where they've allowed 90 or more points. And that is not conducive, allowing 90 points to winning NCAA tournament games.
The one thing I will say that will go in Mizzou's favor, because they are simply a better, they are a physically and athletically more talented team than this Drake squad. If Drake misses a couple threes, I think we think about athletic teams and their ability to open up and speed things up just being on turnovers and things like that. But the big thing you got to think about is, are you a good enough athletic team to speed the game up, not just on turnovers, but on misses and even sometimes on the other team's makes?
Good point.
And that's the other thing where I think Mizzou might be athletic enough, whereas if Drake misses 2 or 3 threes and there's a long rebound, that's 6 quick points from Mizzou on the other end with easy buckets inside the paint. That could be where this game breaks.
It might not be fair, but I think it would be disappointing if Mizzou gets knocked out in the first round, because of what we've already seen that they're capable of this season. They beat, at the time, a number 1 ranked Kansas. Then they were able to beat a really good Florida team. Obviously, we talk about how talented Florida team on the road in January. And then in mid-February, you beat a very talented Alabama team too. So you've seen what they're capable of. To me, that's a team that looks like they could make it far in the big dance. And if they get knocked out in this first round, it's not fair. It doesn't seem fair because they had no expectations going the season, but you already showed all of that potential. It wasn't a fluke with just one of those wins. It was 3 that you saw.
And if they can somehow find the magic defensively, they are capable of beating anybody. And they were right there. They lost by 4 at Tennessee. They lost on a buzzer beater 3-pointer to A&M at home at the end of that game. So with really good tournament teams with good resumes, Missouri beat some of them, and they were able to play right with them. Okay, let's take a look at some of the brackets here. And
Bub says, tough draw for Mizzou. Poor SIUE has to play Houston.
Well,
I would love to see that upset, though.
So I think, number one, we've seen 16s beat ones now.
My favorite thing to happen in the NCAA tournament, unless it's your team.
Right. I think that Houston is the number 1 seed with the hardest path. So they have, and we know that SIUE is really well coached, and we know that they're a very likable team with a very likable coach in Brian Baroni, right? Because he's a friend of the show. But in addition to Houston having to face SIUE in their first round game, if they win that, I shouldn't say when, because SIUE could win that game. But if Houston would win as the number 1 seed, in the second round, they get Gonzaga or Georgia. Okay. Then if they'd win their second game, they would get probably Clemson or Purdue, and then either Illinois, Kentucky, UCLA, or Tennessee. I think Houston, of all the number 1 seeds, has the hardest path to get to the Final Four.
Ooh, so maybe you're predicting a big upset, a Cinderella story with SIUE?
Well, it could happen.
It could. We've seen it happen. I remember one of my favorite ever being an MTSU alum, Blue Raiders, not Blue Gators. Remember, was that it was 2015, 2016 when MTSU knocked out. They were a 15 seed though, beat Michigan State, a number 2 seed.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Giddy Potts became kind of a little story on that basketball team. That was fun.
So who do you like overall? Who do you think is going? And we'll, as the week goes on, we'll reveal more of who we like in the tournament. But do you have a team that is sticking out like a sore thumb to you that you say, okay, that's the best team and they should be able to win this whole thing?
Not really. I'm honestly just watching the SEC teams because I feel like a lot of the SEC teams are predicted to bust. It feels like almost football in a lot of ways where it's like, okay, you had a bunch of SEC teams get in and they didn't live up to the expectations. I'm watching that because you had 14 make it. Some people may find that a little bit controversial and that they might not deserve it. I want an SEC team to win the big dance. I do. I want it to happen.
I think the best team all year long has been Auburn. And I know that
I hate Bruce Pearl. Sorry, I had to say that.
No, that's our former Tennessee coach got him in trouble. I know that the national media has fallen in love with Michigan State because they went on a roll down the stretch and they have a great coach in Tom Izzo. But I still think that overall, top to bottom, Auburn is the best team. And I think if the most talented team that's played the best all year long wins the tournament, then Auburn will win the tournament.
God, can it be anybody else but Bruce Pearl, please?
It could be. How about Rick Pitino?
Oh,
there
I don't
you
know
go.
if that.
By the way, I just want to throw out, while we have it in there, potentially in Auburn's way could be number 9 Creighton, led by St. Louis and Ryan Kalkbrenner, who is absolutely ridiculous. I think 3-time straight Big East Defensive Player of the Year. They were playing a conference game the other day. Again, he's 7 feet tall. He's one of the best shot blockers in the nation. He tallied his first foul in the 33rd minute of the game. And he had 4 blocks at that point.
And he's a big man.
7 feet tall, primary best shot blocker in the country. And he doesn't get called for a foul until the 33rd minute. Legitimately, Creighton could obviously beat Louisville. I really want to see Creighton versus Auburn. That would be a fun game.
And we talked a little bit about St. John's. I love a team that gets up and down the court. And I don't know if you were aware of this, Brooke, but Rick Pitino, because they like to run, he likes to have them finish within 15 seconds.
Randy.
Oh my
Randy,
God.
Yeah. No, I
What?
knew that was going somewhere, and I
What?
still didn't see
What?
where that was going.
They're a run and gun team.
Do you know what our?
I
Do you know what
I
our-
could tell, like when Randy's about to say something controversial, you can tell he's like gearing up for it. It's a little bit of a different cadence than the way that he says other things. I knew it was coming. Still was not expecting that.
Randy, as
whatsoever.
we brought up the genius that is our friend Chris Gardner on here
Oh,
before.
my gosh.
Do you remember what Chris Gardner's nickname for Rick Pitino was?
What was it?
Pasta Prematura.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's the end of the Grim Report. We should mention, by the way, Illinois advancing to the NCAA tournament too, and they will face either Xavier or Texas. So we'll see what happens for Illinois.
They should win that game. Whichever team it is, they should win that game.
They should. Now it's time for overarching, and we should mention the Blues. They won huge last night, 7-2 the final in that one. The Blues are rolling right now, even without Koperniak. I was still so worried about what they would look like without Koperniak because he touches every single aspect of the game for them clearly. And I know a lot of people want Chris Pronger with that meanness, but Koperniak is a huge asset to this team, and you're having a lot of guys step up right now.
You are, and here you had Kyrou with a hat trick 2 nights ago and 3 assists last night. He's playing great offensively. We talked about when Parayko got hurt, how the veteran defense was going to have to step up.
Yep.
And Brooke, this is now the 3rd consecutive 3 games in 4 nights scenario that the Blues have had where they've had 2 wins. And out of 18 possible points in their last 3 games in 4 nights, they picked up 13 of 18 points. They have 1 3 and 4 nights left this season. That's coming up next weekend. But I'm amazed by the resilience of this team, especially with as many veteran players. How about the way that Braden Shen plays every single night at the age of 34?
I was really surprised because we know that he's dealt with a lot of injuries over the years. And I mean, he's getting older. He's on the backside of his career. So it felt like he was kind of slowing down a little bit, but he has really turned it up. 1,000 career games for him. I know they were celebrating that. So Braden Shin has been a huge asset. I'm glad that he decided to stay. I know there was a lot of reports, we covered this during the trade deadline, of the Maple Leafs being really interested in him, but he wanted to stay in St. Louis. And I think that's been a huge part of this uptick that we've seen of the guys wanting to stay, wanting to buy in, including Shin.
So 8-2-2 since the 4 Nations break. At the moment, the Blues have 73 points. The Canucks have 73 points, although the Canucks have played 1 fewer game than the Blues. Calgary, by the way, has 3 games in hand. They've got 71 points, but they've only played 65 games. Now, there are positives and negatives to having games in hand. It's unusual. When I mentioned those 3 games in 4 nights, it's not easy to win, have winning records in 3 and 4s and a lot of back-to-backs. That's what Calgary is going to face with all the games they have remaining down the stretch. I think that actually works to the Blues' advantage, and the Blues also have the advantage of having the softest schedule in the league.
I was going to say that. Yeah, the schedule to end it out is a huge part of it. By the way, in the YouTube chat, we have Rachel weighing in, 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, Rocchio.
Oh, yeah. Jesus. I can't believe we actually went to that. Thanks.
Kalkbrenner?
Thank you so much. Yeah, Koperniak won it
Yes.
4 times. And of course, I'm going to have to answer for that one later.
Yes, Rachel, a huge fan of them.
I'm
Huge
I'm
fan.
in trouble now. That's
Yes.
What freshman wins Defensive Player of the Year
It's
in the
unbelievable.
Big East? What the hell you doing, UConn? Where was Klingon that year? Come on,
kids from St. Louis.
Jesus.
Yes,
So,
and
Unbelievable.
But with the Blues, the remaining schedule for the Blues, the teams have a .525 winning percentage. The Blues have 1 game left against Winnipeg, 2 games left against Colorado, and 1 game left against Edmonton. Otherwise, it's Chicago. It's 3 against the Predators. It's 1 against Seattle, 1 against Pittsburgh. That'll be here. 1 against the hated Red Wings, and 1 against the hockey club.
yes, the
Is
hockey
it the
club.
Utah Hockey Club? Or you?
It is still the Utah Hockey Club, correct?
Right.
They haven't
Something like
changed
that.
anything. Wasn't there a big hiccup with the name that they were trying to be?
Like 5 names they were trying to get. were all
Yeah.
taken. But so the teams that the Blues are in the race for the final wild card spot with, they have bottom half strength of schedule too. Calgary has the 19th toughest schedule, and Vancouver actually Vancouver has the 3rd toughest schedule remaining in the NHL. So if the Blues can play like they've been playing and don't play down to the level of a lot of their competition, I think they're the favorite actually to be the final team in the West, Brooke. And then you get into a first round matchup, and you never know. If you've got Binnington against Winnipeg,
Yes.
when has Binnington not beaten Hellebuck?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's a good
In
point.
big games.
Yeah, in big
And
games.
you get Parayko back.
Yeah.
Then-
That's
then
huge,
we'll-
getting Parayko back. But Justin Falk, we were talking about guys stepping up. Justin Falk, he had 2 points in that win last night. He has been huge. One of those veteran D-men who has stepped up.
And he does it so quietly.
He
right? We
does,
don't talk
yeah.
about him being spectacular, but that he's providing the kind of veteran defense that winning teams need. And I think that Doug Armstrong recognized, okay, he had Kessel and he's back up here. He had Perunovic. He had the other Joseph. And he goes through a part of the season and says, you know what? I need more guys. So during the offseason, Suter, I don't think they expected Suter to play as many minutes early as he did. Then they go out and get Fowler. And then since the hiring of Jim Montgomery as head coach, I think Falk
That
has
was a
played
brilliant-
a lot better.
Yes.
And then
brilliant
you have Parayko, and then you're able to play your young guys a lot fewer minutes. I think there have been some real strokes of genius on the part of Doug Armstrong, and obviously getting Broberg.
Yeah.
And he's played better since coming back. You know, his game has ascended. He didn't come right back, but his game has gotten better and better. So you look at the way this defense has performed. It's kind of not exactly like, because Pietrangelo controlled the game, but in terms of just being a veteran group that doesn't make mistakes, from that perspective, this group is very similar to the 19 group.
I was not expecting this veteran group, especially with the guys on there who are very much on that other side of 30 for hockey, at least, because I'm around there too. So I'm not trying to, say anything negative, but for hockey, at least, that's kind of ancient in hockey terms, especially defensively. They are all playing at such a high level right now and stepping up. I think with Doug Armstrong, he always finds a way to just mix and match. I still can't get over how he pulled off the offer sheets. That was so controversial for him to do that. But look at how well it's worked out. You gave those guys the right playing time. You mentioned Broberg, of course, dealing with the injury, and it took him a little bit to come back from that. But still, Broberg and Holloway have been huge assets and have really ascended my expectations for them going
No
into
doubt.
the season.
Holloway is a star.
He is.
He's got
top
22
six.
goals now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
top six. I wasn't, and they didn't even. And the thing is the Army is so good about how he handles these players a lot of the times that he didn't put any expectation out there of that Holloway needed to be a top 6 guy. He saw the potential, gave him the opportunity, and Holloway flourished into that role.
Kyrou leading the team in goals with 27. Holloway is second with 22. Jake Neighbors has 18, and he's getting hot now. He's getting back to that level that he displayed last year. And then, as we mentioned, you're getting great work out of Shen. Robert Thomas is just having a Robert Thomas year, and we tend to kind of take for granted his consistency, but he's just a point a game guy.
He's Mr. Consistent. There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing at all. And then Buchnevich appears to be getting hot. As rough as he had it before the Four Nations, Buchnevich is kind of playing like the old Buchnevich now.
He really is. And Bub says, did you see the Athletic ranked the Blues ownership 5th best in the NHL? I did not see that article yet.
I think they're the best.
They're amazing. Super nice. They care a lot about the fans and the players. I think they make that really clear.
Yeah. Tom Stillman and the group are fantastic. And I don't know what the parameters were, how they came to their conclusions. And there are several really good ownerships. I'm sure that they're looking at Tampa as an ownership in Toronto. But in terms of spending to the cap and risking dollars, and here's the big thing about Tom Stillman and this group. They hope to break even. Okay, they aren't in it to make a ton of money. They aren't in hockey ownership to be a big profit team. They look at their hockey team as a community trust. And it's the Danforth family, it's the Taylor family, it's the folks from Worldwide Technology that have all contributed, along with Mr. Stillman, to have a really good team that the community, the region, can be proud of. That is really rare, I think, in sports these days, to have an ownership group that makes it not about being a profit center for them, but making it something that is a community trust.
It really is. And you can tell. And they also work so well with Doug Armstrong. I think that's another part of this too, where you can just tell the ownership group is bought in on the same page with Doug Armstrong.
And that's so important. And they trust him, right? Because there's a lot of general managers that miss the playoffs for a couple of years, would have been fired.
Oh, yeah.
But Armstrong is able to go to Tom Stillman, and he's able to go to the ownership group. And Army gives them a vision, says, okay, here's what we're going to do. It might be painful for a couple of years, but to build a sustainable, long-term, successful franchise, here's what we need to do. Now, is it going to work? We don't know. But he gave them a plan that seemed logical. And the plan, at this point at least, is working. Because at some point in the NHL, you get to that point where if you want to keep Alex Pietrangelo, and you would have had to do so. He got 8.8. He probably would have stayed for $7 million. But you get older players, David Perron, our guy, right? But he got old, and you just can't play anymore. Tarasenko gets old. O'Reilly gets old. And
look at how it's gone for Tarasenko, by the way, just throwing that out there. I know it was a little controversial at first to move on because there was a lot of stuff publicly that was put out there, especially from Tarasenko's camp. Look at how things turned out for Tarasenko. Has he been through like 2 agents at this point too?
Right. Yeah, and multiple teams. And apparently Detroit looks at the signing of him to a 2-year contract as a massive mistake. Yeah, that's exactly the look on Steve Yzerman's face.
Yeah, that's exactly. Like, oh, what do we do here?
Yeah, so the point that Army made was, would we rather pay young guys that have a chance to get better or old guys who can only get worse?
Exactly.
And they weren't sure about Thomas and Kyrou, but they've gotten better. Kyrou is going to score 30 goals here, and it's 3 years in a row with 30 or more goals. And it's hard to score 30 goals in the National Hockey League. And Thomas has played very well. They gave Karraker the contract. Karraker has turned out to be worth the contract once he got past the injuries. Broberg and Holloway look for all the world as if they're going to be guys that are worth it. I think that the Doug Armstrong plan right now, the way I'm looking at it, is working.
Exactly. And the Blues will be playing, what day is it? Is it Tuesday? Yeah, tomorrow against the Nashville Predators. Now, here's a story.
3 left against the Preds.
Yes. Now, I had to bring up this story because I've been sitting on this, Randy. I was waiting for you to get back so that I could save this story for you for overarching, okay?
Oh, I'm liking this, okay?
So, if you email new UNC head football coach Bill Belichick, I think we've heard of him before. That's a well-known man. If you email UNC head football coach Bill Belichick, just know that his girlfriend, Jordan Hudson, 24 years old, by the way, 24 years old. Feel like I should say that she will be CC'd on those emails. On my map. Okay. Yes, she will be CC'd on those emails. So what do you think of this report that Bill Belichick is making sure that Jordan Hudson, his girlfriend, 24 years old, is included on these emails?
Well, I think it's great. She's running his social media too. You know, he says he's on the FaceTube now, and she's very savvy.
I would hope so.
24 years old. She's
24 years
very,
old.
very savvy with the FaceTube and the InstaFace and those things that Bill Belichick.
I always
was into.
hated that so much because he knows the real freaking names.
I know, but it's,
he knows the
but
names.
he's trying to be funny
That was my least favorite Bill Belichick joke.
You know, he's known for being charming and charismatic.
when he's
Yeah.
not on camera. So it's interesting because the
Did you
people.
guys see the picture he put on? Did you guys see the picture he put on social
Can you
media?
please
That Mina
pull it up?
Kimes. Oh God, it's gonna take
Can
me a
you
minute.
please?
Mina
need to check it
Kimes
out.
made fun of him, and it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my entire
Okay,
life.
so
Let me find
Rocchio,
it.
because I know what
Is
you're
it-
talking
yeah,
about.
yeah, yeah.
This,
The
this will
girlfriend's
be
name is
Randy's first reaction.
Jordan Hudson is her name, or Jordan. What
Isn't it?
Is her first
isn't
name
it
Jordan?
Yeah, I think it's Jordan Hudson.
You
I will
guys have
double
Google
check.
too.
Oh, okay, sassy. Yes, we'll double check.
J Hud.
Yes, literally,
Just saying.
like just okay.
We need to come up with a name for the couple. Is my point here.
So it is Jordan Hudson. I'd had
Okay,
to double check.
J Hud.
So Bill Belichick, Jordan Hudson. While Rocchio's working on this photo,
Let's see.
B-Dub,
Let's see. Yeah, Bella Hud. No.
Bella
Something.
Jordan. No,
Bellison. No.
their names don't work well
They
together
don't,
for a
no.
nickname
We
matchup.
would have to go with Jill. No.
I don't like that
I
one
don't either.
whatsoever. I don't know. Yeah, they're a cute couple, and it
They
looks
are.
like
Okay.
Rocchio is getting a little bit closer to getting us this photo. But what do you think about that? So is she actually handling his social media? Why does she need to be included on these? And I don't know what emails it is specifically that she's helping him with. Oh, here we go. Here we
Mina
go.
Kimes absolutely dunking on her.
I can't see what it says. What did
Oh,
she say?
it's why is this so this is the original tweet is this Chuck Bass reposted Jordan Isabella, I guess is her Twitter name, Bill Belichick and her on the beach. Mina Kimes is the quote retweet, which is not showing up on the screen, unfortunately. Let's see if I can get a different format so you guys can see this tweet that
can just tell
Mina
us.
had. Yeah, I'll just tell you. Mina just says, "My 18-month-old loves when we play this game. We call it airplane."
Stop.
Is that?
That's
is-
Bill.
Is,
Bill
that
and his
BB
girlfriend.
on the
That's
bottom?
Bill. That's Bill at the bottom.
That's
And
Bill
that's
at the
J-
bottom, and that's her.
J Hud on the.
It's a Mina Kimes comment of just my 18-month-old loves when we play this game. We call it
18-month-old.
loves when we
Yeah.
play this game. We call it airplane.
Stop.
It's such a good burn by Mina Kimes.
I think
It's such a
great.
creepy picture by Bill and Jordan.
But, okay, here's the whole thing. Is it weird seeing Bill Belichick behave in this way where it seems like he's just been like a recluse for so long, especially
Mhm.
when he was with the Patriots.
Right.
Seems like he started to show his personality a little bit more on the Manning cast. Now he's going to be the UNC head football coach. It's just weird seeing him so open about this relationship. Even their Halloween costume where like he was a fisherman and she was a mermaid. It's just strange seeing this version of Bill Belichick. But I guess when you
It
date
is.
somebody that young, it brings out a different side.
He's never been good at PR. He's never known what to say. He's never been good at
Oh,
this.
and so now she's handling it. Now
Yeah.
she's handling everything. now.
And Pablo Torre of ESPN reported that she is even handling his business affairs, like the negotiations with North Carolina. That
Stop.
Pablo Torre of ESPN wrote that she is Belichick's de facto agent. He said that she's the gateway. What I've been told reliably is that Jordan happened to use her power to be in the Dunkin' Donuts commercial.
Okay.
She was in the Dunkin' Donuts
Okay.
commercial.
So then
Yeah.
let's All right.
And so
let's-
she's
is
let's-
this
basically-
elder abuse? We're gonna
yes.
change the subject.
Yes,
is
thank
this
you, Brooke.
elder abuse?
Thank you,
No.
Brooke. Thank you very much for Okay, okay. So this is tricky, but we have to have a conversation now about like, do you respect the business arrangement that this clearly is?
Maybe
from
it's
her
a business.
perspective,
I
do I
think it's a
From both
business.
perspectives.
Well,
I think he's
Yeah.
obviously having fun.
yeah.
Yeah, but I
Yes.
think maybe it's more business for her. But how is he for somebody who's accomplished so much
She's
and he's still very powerful? How is he allowing this? I mean, maybe he's just
again.
really
it's a
happy?
transaction. Everyone's happy with what they're getting.
And is that legal
is that legal?
with what he's getting out of this transaction?
Apparently, yeah,
In Vegas, okay.
yeah. Apparently, no.
In
In the
Vegas,
in the
okay.
regular world, okay. You just gotta fudge it up with. Look how happy we are in our
Okay.
relationship based on feelings
I don't
of
I honestly don't have any.
infatuation and
It's
love.
Love is love.
It's
Eh,
It's interesting.
That's that. Look at the picture again, Randy. I need you
know,
to look at
I
that picture
can't
with a
stop
straight
looking at
face
this
and say,
one.
"Love is love."
Oh, isn't that cute? He's staying in great condition.
God.
He's happier than he's ever been. Have you ever seen Bill Belichick smile as much as he has smiled over the course of the last year?
That's
Airplane.
true. He has
Yeah.
smiled a lot,
No.
hasn't he?
Yeah, of course
Yeah.
he has.
So I just think that if you can change somebody for the better, like she clearly has, then you should be applauded for that.
And respect the hustle, because again, she's getting in commercials now and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Which
And also getting great advice on her homework.
On her
Yep.
homework. Stop.
So no, I don't. There's a lot of people that see a problem with a 72-year-old man and a 24-year-old woman.
That's me, because I think it's weird. I think there's something weird going on here. It feels like elder abuse. Ellipsis 150 says there's a 100% chance Bill pulled a muscle posing for this photo. Yes.
It's yoga. It's beach yoga.
But also, I just want to be a fly on the wall in this conversation, because I'm not old, and yet if somebody looked me in the eyes and said, "Hey, let's take this photo on the beach," I would pass out from laughing. I'm not taking that photo on the beach. This is dumb.
She probably just like set the phone up.
But then she was like, "Here's what I want you to do, Bill." Really?
yeah.
I no, I wouldn't have been able to take the situation. Like, I just can't imagine her walking up to Bill Belichick and being like, "I want to take a cute photo where I'm bouncing on your feet," and him just being like, "Yeah, whatever. Okay, we're going back to the room in the next hour or two, please."
Oh, ew.
It's the reality of the situation, Brooke.
40-year age difference between
That's
the
true.
two.
I'm
That's
just being honest about what's
disgusting.
I'm just being honest about the situation. It's I was uncomfortable at the beginning, and at no point has a news update about this relationship made me less uncomfortable.
I think that I don't know, and I try not to be a judgy person, but big
I'm
age
failing.
gaps
I'm failing.
really, really, really hard for me to not be judgy, because my whole thought process is like, you shouldn't care about what people think about you, but you know that everybody thinks that like you're weird if you're, and women do it too. Like Aaron Taylor Johnson is a great example of having an older wife.
Yeah.
And that's creepy. Like do you know anything about Aaron Taylor Johnson? No. Big movie star right now. Google up the whole history. It's nuts. So he was like 18 years old when he met his wife. She was the director for the movie he was in, and she was already in her 40s.
Wow.
Ew. Yeah. So you get what I'm saying. Whenever I see that kind of stuff, I'm like, so you're just like okay with like people thinking like they pretty much know when you're out publicly that it's just transactional.
Or what
right?
about last year? Remember the Duke player Kyle Filipowski,
so
who had the 30-year-old girlfriend who was apparently
yeah.
like controlling his life and things like that.
Okay,
It's
so
weird.
How old was the guy?
He was like 18.
Okay, so let's look at it from this perspective. You want to learn some science today, kids?
I'm
Science.
afraid where this is going.
Women reach their sexual peak when they're 30.
Yep, you're right. You're right.
Men
Good call.
reach their sexual peak when they're 18.
Good call, Brooke.
No.
Yes. So
you said yes. Like it's,
yeah. So this is.
I just
this is
imagine
science.
Randy in a lab
Yeah.
coat, like just
Yeah.
doing like
Terrible.
a scientific
Oh,
study.
I
on
would have
this.
loved to have done this experiment.
That's terrible.
But
yeah, it's weird in all cases. Remember
But no,
Demi?
it's-
What was
but
Demi Moore
why
with
does that-
Ashton Kutcher?
Don't.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah,
There you
she
go.
was- yeah.
See,
That was weird.
It wasn't weird. It was science,
It was science.
and it was fine.
They
Now,
literally dedicated their body to science.
Oh
Literally,
my
yeah.
God! How
Thank
did you
you.
do worse? Oh,
Yeah. that's
can I
what
make
happened.
one other quick
Terrible.
point here
Sure. Go ahead.
about Jordan Hudson
Mhm.
working as Bill Belichick's de facto agent?
Yes.
Okay. So when Bill Belichick signed his last deal with the Patriots, it was for $25 million a year. Okay. And he got roughly $100 million. He has signed a 3-year deal or a 5-year deal with North Carolina. First 3 years fully guaranteed. $10 million a year in base salary plus supplemental income with additional bonus potential. Okay. She is working as his de facto agent, and you would think that is his main squeeze right now, right?
3%.
Yes.
Okay. He's 72. The average white male in America lives to be 76. You talk about transactional.
I was just going off the 3% is the agent. You're going off the full Monty.
I'm going
Okay.
off the full Monty,
Okay.
right? Because
By the
if
way-
she's working as the de facto agent, do you not think that she's got it, that she gets the whole ball of wax when he's the typical American white male that lives to be
Playing
76?
chess, not checkers.
Randy,
He's
to
not
your
in the
point,
best of
She's
shape.
playing the long game.
Yes, she is.
Uh,
Even if she's playing,
unlike Rick Pitino,
Even if she's playing the short game though, Randy, by the way, that's $30 million guaranteed if she gets the 3% from that. That's just a cool $900,000.
Oh, that's not bad. But you can get the whole enchilada when he capitulates, when he bites the dust, when he finds himself 6 feet under. If she plays her cards correctly, she could wind up with a haul just for entertaining him for what, 5 years?
Entertaining him for 5
all I want to know is
Yeah.
I'm expecting the engagement in the next 6 months. And then I cannot wait to see what the prenup is, if there is one.
No prenup.
I cannot wait to see.
No, she's in charge here.
Hopefully he would have a prenup. If there's not a prenup, then I'm calling
elder
elder
abuse.
abuse.
Yeah, you're
I'm
calling
like,
elder 100%.
If you can we show that picture one more time?
Okay, where'd it go?
You just want to keep seeing that picture, don't you?
I want to see that picture because I need to make a point here.
I'm afraid of what this point shall be.
There you go. That is a photo of a
there we
woman
go.
having a man wrapped around her pinky finger.
Yeah.
And
that's what I'm saying is I can't believe that he is doing this.
Yeah. So
you know what I mean?
He probably doesn't know.
So then that's where it's like elder abuse, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like if he's not fully aware, if he's not mentally capable of understanding what he's doing at this point, it's
Right. And he might not be.
He might not be, but hey, he's happy.
Yeah.
To your point.
Okay. Right.
He's happy.
Can I
He
do
appears to
a
be
pivot to real sports for as we close out the show?
Yeah.
No.
All right, fine. City won this week, 1-0.
5 clean sheets, right?
4 clean sheets
4
to start
clean
the season, which is only the third time ever in MLS history.
4.
The first time since 2012 that a team pulled this off. So 13 years since a team opened a season with 4 clean sheets. City did it. Apparently, when they hire a new coach, they just set records to start seasons.
What happened
Dangerous
with
precedent to
Berkey,
set.
by the way? Why has he broken his hand?
He fractured his hand. Apparently, he just reached out to save a ball that was kind of an unexpected deflection towards the net in the small area scrimmage. Where they had like the nets like 30 yards apart instead of the full.
You're buying it?
And I think he I think he fractured. Yeah.
Didn't punch a wall or anything?
Why would you think he'd punch a
didn't
wall? He's
Alex
getting
Reyes
he's keeping clean
himself?
sheets.
Alex Reyes.
He's happy.
Punched a wall. I don't know.
Berkey's happy, and I definitely don't think he would have punched a wall because he's in line to get just an absolutely just fat paycheck.
Okay.
Because he's in a contract year. They knocked him down to a TAM player. They're going to give him a DP level contract, which means he needs to be healthy. But
is he going to clean up here, or is he going to Chicago?
I think he's going to clean up here.
Okay.
And although Chicago does has a bunch of money,
And don't he and
right now.
Berhalter have a relationship? In Berhalter in Chicago now?
I don't think he and Berhalter have a relationship. I'm
Oh,
pretty sure
somebody
Roman
told me.
Berkey's significant other lives in Chicago, where she works. Which I don't put too much into that. Roman Berkey makes a lot of money, and she comes to St. Louis a lot.
That happened with Zach Ertz, right? Didn't his
You're right about that. You're right about that. But so I don't think
Gotta
that's.
watch that stuff.
I think they're going to get him signed to that contract. I think people are down on Ben Lunt because the few games he's played, the last 2 years the defense wasn't good and he had some bad games. But Ben Lunt, inside City group, has a lot of potential, they think, and so I'm not worried about it. The defense is obviously solid, and I think they could, win some games with Lunt. In other City news, I wanted to throw this out here because earlier we were talking about a team that overreacted to something they saw because of shoddy groundwork. And I do want to say on the opposite side, City has been incredible to work with in so many ways, but hopefully that doesn't change. One of the people that we've been working with City for such a long time over the last 2 years, John Gasparoni, the head of their PR, is this was his last home game. So I want to say thank you to him.
Oh, man.
Him and City did a
Where's he going?
fantastic job setting things up. He has an announcement. I'm not going to say it publicly. I don't know if he's made a public announcement yet.
Okay.
Staying in sports?
Just a shout out to City and to John for doing such an incredible job. They hit the ground running. They right out of the gate got involved not only with us at the station, and they've been great since we started this up, but they got involved with a bunch of the independent podcasts, which I know is a very hit or miss thing across sports and across markets, especially this one when you look at other sports and things like that. They embraced that independent market And I think it was a huge reason why the first 2 years have been so successful from the fan side. Obviously, the supporters groups, they reached out and supported them. So I think City, in my opinion, has done so many things so well from the get-go. And John joined not at the beginning, a couple months in, and immediately kicked up things in the PR department and the media relations department to a completely different level. So I just want to say thank you to him and City because they've done great for the last few years, and hopefully they continue so that we can continue with some great City coverage here on Sports Hub STL.
Yeah, and congratulations to John. Hopefully he moves onward and upward in his career. But yeah, it's not always easy in professional sports to make everybody happy. You've got to make players happy and be comfortable and getting them out there, but you have to try to make the media happy too. And it's hard to find that happy medium, I think, for a lot of PR people. It's hard, so some are intimidated or whatever by going to players, and some teams just don't love the media.
I was going to say some just don't like media.
So sometimes you have to deal with bosses who are not huge fans of the media.
Yeah.
So they have
some PR people just don't even want to interact with media.
Right. But if you look at City going right from the top with Caroline Kindle and then Diego and Lutz, and then the coaches, they've all been fabulous to work with, and the go-between for us has been John Gasparoni, so we're very thankful.
Yes.
And our buddy Mark Abel, by the way.
Who's also amazing.
He's amazing and a very able person.
Oh, more than able, more than capable. With that, we'll close out the show.
Oh, a dad joke. Oh man, that's
to close
the
out the
worst.
show. That's the best way to close out the show.
One thing I did say AC and Giovanni Laurenti with a very funny interaction. Do you think Joe Mather knows we still talk about him? And Giovanni Laurenti laughs LOL at Joe Mather. This is what he says. It's one of my favorite names just to throw out there randomly.
Joe
about
Mather.
An old Cardinal. Joe
That's a good
Mather.
one.
Great
Yeah.
one.
We thought he was going to be a great hitter.
He was like 6'7". How could you not?
Right.
No.
Yeah. And he's a hitting coach somewhere.
Is he? Oh,
Here, let me
I'll just get him on.
He's with the D-backs.
Okay.
Is he, or what is
he's
he
doing a
not?
good job.
Let me see.
Yeah. So
At least he was.
Yeah, Dave McKay is there too, and they have a tomorrow, or no, later in the week when we continue our list of the top starting opening day pitchers, we will hear a story about perhaps Joe Mather. Is he still on their coaching staff?
I think so. I was trying to look that up real quick.
I'll tell you right now, because their manager, Torey Lavollo, is having a great deal of difficulty determining who their opening day starter should be. So he went into the coach's office and said, hey, I want each of you to send me a text about who you think our opening day starter should be and why. Because he said it was an agonizing decision. Obviously, they have Zach Gallen, and they have Corbin Burns, and they have Brandon Pfaadt. So they've got a group of guys who are all capable of being the opening day starter, and he's trying to have his coaches get as much input as possible. So I don't know if Joe Mather was part of it. Tomorrow, we're going to talk to the head coach of your St. Louis Battlehawks, Anthony Becht.
Yes.
Looking forward to that. And later this week here at Sports Hub STL, and we've got things coming fast and furious, but we've got another big announcement coming your way here on Sports Hub STL. And so you want to be with our show. Yeah, be with our show during the week because we're going to have a lot of big stuff happening. And you are not going to be here tomorrow.
I am not. I have a doctor's appointment.
That's fair.
That's it.
Okay.
It's not that exciting.
It's a doctor's. It's a baby doctor appointment.
It is a baby doctor appointment.
So,
lots of those for all those who have kids or having kids. It's
right.
a lot of appointments.
Great job today. Did you have fun?
Yes.
Great.
Did you?
Fantastic as always, Matthew Rocchio. Thank you, sir. That's our audio and video engineer, the one, the only Matthew Rocchio. We got to get him in the bubble a little bit more.
Sometimes the bubble works and sometimes it doesn't.
Okay, well,
but that's what's kind of fun about the bubble, though, is like we don't know. It's like a very special moment when it does work. You know.
Don't forget Cards Hub 365 coming up after the Cardinal game today, and we will be back with you live tomorrow. You can always see us on the YouTube at Sports Hub STL on the YouTube channel.